This is the real spiel. I'm not going to blow it yet. There's a time to blow this trumpet, though, but it's not now. Listen, just like to welcome everybody back to the real spiel. The real spiel is a show that talks about the constantly changing dynamic of the Black community in North America, Africa, Israel, and throughout the world. I'm your host, L.K. Brereton, and we're formulating kind of a new paradigm. As you can see, Shiloh Institute is something that I'm going to be talking about, and I'm building my way towards that conversation with you. But take a peek at shilohинstitute.org. Changes are coming. So what I have to talk to you about today is the mentality that, and this is what I have to say. Like there should be a mentality like this, and I want to make sure that we're being fair. Dope by Dell still in the house, but I want to make sure we're being fair, and fair meaning that is there a white conservative mentality that is pro-Black that we constantly ignore? Is there a white conservative mentality that is pro-Black that we constantly ignore? This is my question, and this has to become a part of the conversation when it comes to establishing allies in the Black community. Who is the new abolitionist? And I think we need to ask these questions. I'm standing on the topsoil of our ancestors out here in the United States of America, and my feet are planted on top of different soil, but under the same sun. On the different side of a colonizer's border, I sit and I talk to you today, closer to Capitol Hill, further away from Ottawa, cryptically telling you, I'm here under the same system that I have been speaking about for months, intentionally on purpose, because I thought it was important that if I was going to, I don't want to use the wrong words, if I was going to engage in a community, I have to be in it. I have to be in it. I have to be dealing with it. I have to be under the same levels of scrutiny. I couldn't have you saying, well, you're not here. I had to be here. And so in my questioning of an evaluation and analysis of being here, have we underestimated, and this is the question, have you underestimated the white conservative? Is the white conservative on board? Who is the new abolitionist? Now, for people who don't know what the abolitionist movement was, the abolitionist movement essentially was conscious objectors, white conscientious objectors, who, through their Christian faith or other moral ideologies, saw a great issue with slavery. And not only did they see the issue, but they took it upon themselves to be part of the solution. They assisted in the freeing of Black people, in the liberation of Black people, the liberation of the African in America, throughout the Civil War of America, throughout slavery in general. And there was this great abolitionist movement that was part and parcel with something that was very, very white and right, called the Great Enlightenment and the Great Awakening, the Great Awakening. And there was the Great Awakening 1 and the Great Awakening 2. And so what the Great Awakening was, you can say hi to me, you can say good morning to me, everybody. But what the Great Awakening was, it was a resurgence of the European white Protestant to recognize that their Christianity was not something they could simply be born into, that their faith was not something that was like a bumper sticker or a political party, but that their faith had to be demonstrated through the act of grace, and that there were virtues that had to reflect on your lip service of saying that you are a child of God. And so, what these folks did is there was an awakening to virtue. So it came in multiple phases. The folks not wanting to drink alcohol as much, and you know, having much very, very conservative values in respect to presentation. Women were growing out their hair and wearing clothes that were very, very modest, and there was a return to a society that was that was trying to live up to a particular moral standard. And this is in the 1800s, of course, but what the early 1800s. So what took place now is this conversation about slavery. How can I be a good Christian and still own slaves, still have black slaves? And it began to pick away at the moral turpitude of white America. And what we saw in combination to the political tug of war between the North and the South, between the South capacity and ability to be wealthy, utilizing slave labor, and the North's capacity to say we have to control these Southerners, should we take their slaves away? And people, white on both sides of the Mason-Dixie line, who says, is slavery something that I should be doing? And so the abolitionist movement arises out of a combination of all, out of individuals who want to politically destroy the South, out of individuals who morally want to destroy slavery, and out of blacks, of course, who simply want to be free. And this combination created this abolitionist movement, directed, of course, with whites and blacks, with an agenda to, at the end of the day, free slaves. Now, it's one thing to give you freedom, but it is another thing to give you the resources you need to stay free, to be prosperous, to never again be contained or locked down, to have legislative ability, to sit in positions of power, to be educated, to be given retribution of things that were stolen from you. And so if we're talking about an abolitionist movement, stop the cap. Explain what you mean when you say stop the cap. I know what cap means, but if you're talking about an abolitionist movement of today, the question really remains, when whites say that they are white conservatives who are interested in, in truly representing their Christian morality, do we have a current day population of the white right that says part of being a moral conservative means that I also have to be an advocate for black people? This is the question. And this is the question to the Tucker Carlson, Fox News, Trump, MAGA hat. This is the question to all of the Bible Belt. This is the question to the Santes and all of these individuals who seemingly have said that they have no issue with black people. They have no issue with black empowerment. They have no issue with black people in government, no black people ruling, black people getting what they're supposed to get. Their issue is that they have they're moral objectors to certain things that the liberal side of black politics per se gets itself involved in. And so what I'm saying to you is show me that your issue is not with us, that you can endorse. And the Black Republican is standing up saying, well, they do. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. We hear you. We hear you. We're not talking to you, Black Republican. We're talking to the white conservative. The white conservative who says he's a Christian. He might be a gun owner. He's a person that believes in God and country. He believes in the American military. He's a nationalist. He's a patriot. I'm asking that person, do you believe in Black rights? Do you believe Blacks have enough? Do you believe that we are still operating on a fair playing field in America? Now, you're going to say things to me like, well, you've had a Black president. You're going to say things to me like, Black people sit on the Supreme Court. You're going to say things to me like, you've got Black chiefs of police and Black mayors and Black governors. Do you have Black governors? Anyway, you're going to say all these things to me. And I'm still going to come back to you with the same question. Because when laws were on the books, when the Emancipation Proclamation and all of these other amendments came to be, when all these things came on the books, you still had a disparity of what Blacks had access to. To this very day, the other day I spoke and said this. I said that we're talking on a show called Progressive Minds, and you could check it out on YouTube. And we were talking about, we started to talk about the comparison between Kwame Nkrumah and Martin Luther King. And what I said was that Martin Luther King, if we compare him to Kwame Nkrumah, did not come close to the achievements of Kwame Nkrumah. In fact, if we were truly being analytical, without disrespecting the great legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, without disrespecting that legacy, what did he accomplish in his life and in his legacy that Black people are not still asking for today? That is a true question. That is a true question. It is a perspective that holds our community back, not the laws. You can explain that to me. Break that down for me. What perspective is that? But when you analyze King, and yes, this leader of the civil rights movement, this leader to make sure that Black people had civil rights, he marched and spoke and gave us some of the most greatest oral presentations that the world has ever seen. And apparently even Kwame Nkrumah claims to be, the allegation is Kwame Nkrumah was greatly affected by the things that Martin had done. But what Kwame did is Kwame won the independence of an entire nation. He won the independence of an entire nation. He created a unity of African nations. What he did was so much for the country of Ghana and for Africa. And I am not taking away from the accomplishments of King, but if you compare them to Nkrumah, what is the Black community still asking for now that they were still asking for at the time of King? And the question is a lot, or the answer rather might be a lot. We might be in the same new technological boat that we were in with King. We still had these egregious things happening to Black people that we still see now. We still needed to march. We still, like, if you look at everything from Trayvon Martin to Floyd, we are still perpetually stuck in this circle. If you look at the disparity of wealth that is taking place, yes, and I agree with you, Deborah. Dr. Martin Luther was unfortunately cut down when he was finally realized that we needed resources. Yes, and I agree. His life was shortened. And that is a fair assessment to say that he probably would have done a lot more if he was allowed to live in a country that kills its prophets, right? Yeah. America so badly wants to be Israel. America so badly, the white conservative so badly wants to be a Jew. But they have adopted the behaviors of ancient Israel, where Jesus has said, "You have killed your prophets," and unfortunately, America has killed its prophets. However, they cannot kill the ideology of their prophets. So, King still lives in us. King still lives in us. King still lives in us. So, the disparity of wealth must be a conversation. If you listen to Dr. Claude Anderson, and Claude Anderson says that essentially since the Emancipation Proclamation, the percentage of wealth. Remember, listen to what I'm saying, because I know some of y'all like to jump and not listen. The percentage of wealth that the black community has compared to the percentage of wealth that the white community has not changed. That's what Dr. Claude Anderson is telling us. That per capita, the black person is no more wealthy than they were 10 years outside of the Emancipation Proclamation than they are now. That's a scary thing when you think about, we've got black billionaires. We've got Jay-Z, we've got Beyonce, we got Robert Smith, we have LeBron, we have Oprah, we have what's his name, Johnson, Bob Johnson. We have all these black billionaires, and then trickle it down to millionaires who are sports athletes and entertainers and business people, right? Cut it down to, we have the common Joe who has just done well for themselves. We have dentists and doctors and lawyers and business owners. We have all these things. We have all these things. We have all these foundations, all these associations. We have people sitting in Congress. We have people sitting in, again, as I said, the Supreme Court and district courts. We have all these things. But yet, the percentage of wealth that the black community has now has not changed since essentially the Emancipation Proclamation. So if Claude Anderson, and I'm quoting Dr. Claude Anderson, I'm quoting Dr. When you say, well, where'd you get your stats from? I got it from Dr. Claude Anderson. Please go check him. Go check him on YouTube. He's got some fantastic stuff. He's a brilliant black man. If you can't buy one of his books, go check him out on YouTube. And Darlene X says, but we have no institutions. And this is, I'm not going to be as absolute as you are, Darlene, but we have very few institutions. It's not about our melanin. That is why, if the Indians and people from other melanin come to America, if it is not about our melanin, then why? Yeah, and I don't think it's just about the melanin, personally. I think it's what the black person in America represents, and what the black person in America represents to the white conservative, because the liberal white person doesn't see it the way the white conservative. I think the white conservative is actually a much better individual remembering their history than the liberal. The liberal is saying, listen, we did wrong, you guys didn't deserve that, and I want to fix it. The white conservative says, we did wrong, you didn't deserve it, but I want to hide that. I don't want to fix that, because fixing that, if I had to fix that, there'd be hell to pay. So let's just ignore that. Let's just not talk about that anymore. Let's just, you guys just sit out at the table and take it easy. You're part of the team now. Let's not bring up slavery anymore. Let's just not bring it up. Let's not bring it up. You guys always bring up slavery. I know, we did that. I know, but we're here now. So the white conservative, to many of us, that is how we feel they are addressing this still teeter-totter effect that has not leveled off for the Black community. Let me see, just a thought. How much was Mr. Kwame able to accomplish what he did? Because it was on Black land, truth is, okay, it was done on white land. So if you want to really be technical, Ghana was white land. Ghana was a colonized country, a British colony, right? And America is also a British colony. It is a colony that individuals who are not part of the sovereign nation of England, but objectors came here and took over the land. So this land was no more white than Africa. It was a colony. And I think this is the difference. And I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it many times. You're going to hear me say this many times because, and this is a dangerous thing to say in America. It's one of the most dangerous thoughts American Black people refuse to have, is that what Kwame Nkrumah did is he asked for his independence. He said, you're here. Yes, you've given us your political system, your parliament. You've put your faces on our money. You've created borders and divisions, but it's time for us to have our independence. You forced us to speak English, but it's time for us to have our independence. The American slave colony, I have to say it, America was a slave colony where the slaves did not ask for their independence. The slaves in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Barbados, and all of these other islands, these slaves asked for independence. Ghana, through Kwame Nkrumah, asked for independence. Should the American Black person, the African in America, the colonized African, this is what they're trying to call you now, the involuntary migrant, should you ask for independence? And the answer to that is yes. And this is why the white right, I believe, is very trepidatious in having a conversation with you about becoming, about being rather, the new abolitionist. Because the abolitionist movement, to some extent, lied to Black people and told Black people that we were going to form a new union of which you would be part of. And so this new union that the abolitionists promised to Blacks, it never gave you ownership. It just gave you a couple of seats at the table. And there's a big difference from owning the house to being invited into the house and sitting at the table. There's a big difference from being told you have to go through the woodshed, and you can come in. You have to go through the service elevator, and then you can come in here and perform. You can't swim in our pool, but you can, and you can't drink out of this water fountain, but you can drink out of that water fountain. Oh, you can't sit in this restaurant. We don't let y'all sit in this restaurant. But if you go across the street, well, you can't go to this school, but we have a couple of raggedy tag books that we put together for you if you go over there. So there's a big difference between being told you own the house to being told, hey, come on in here and sit yourself at the table. No, oh, sorry, not this table. Sit at that table because this table is here for us and we just want to make sure. Even though they have independence, their countries are no better for it. My dear, I think that's an extreme statement. I think to say that Ghana is not a better country being independent, and this country is being run by Black people, that they are no better for it. I think that is, we have to dissect that statement. But is the economic power of a Black person, an African in Ghana, the same as the economic power as an African person in America? Is it the same? The answer, of course, is no. We know that the capacity for the American Black person to get ahead, to do well financially, his opportunity is much bigger to do that here than it is in Africa. We won't argue that point. They want to be here. right? And some of us want to be there, but we don't want to be there without the money from here. So, but let's talk about the principle. The principle is this. This is really what you're saying. Is it better for me to run my own business, to be able to wake up when I want, to be able to get into my car when I want, go there when I want, knowing the place is mine? Or is it better for me to have a job paying more, but I'm taking crap every day. I'm being told terrible things. I'm being told what to do. I'm being ridiculed. I'm being pushed around. I'm being stressed out. But I'm making more money. But I'm dealing with the immensity of drama and abuse every day. That's your question. That's your question. Um, the black faces are gatekeepers. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You can finish that sentence for me. So we are here now saying, and I'm really asking the question, Tucker Carlson. Sorry that you're looking for a new job right now, but I'm really asking the question, Fox News. I'm really asking the question. What is your role in making sure that the treasure chest of America, that the wealth of America, that the resources of America, the power of America, that the military of America, that the technology of America, that everything that America is, that I am an owner with you? What is your responsibility? And this is what I'm not gonna accept this answer from you. And I'm talking to the white conservative. Black folks, just let's listen. As Deborah R said, just listen. White conservative, I have a question for you. I hope you came onto this video. I hope this is a video because you're not being attacked. You're not being attacked. I'm asking a true question. What do you feel is your responsibility? And this is what I won't accept from you. Well, my responsibility is to take care of me, and your responsibility is to go out there and take care of you. Okay. In a level playing field, you're absolutely right. And then you're going to say, well, how much more can we level the playing field? This is the conversation. This is the conversation. Let me pull my chair up. There was an attempt to level the playing field. Okay, there was an attempt to level the playing field. It was called 40 Acres and a Mule. It was giving people the basic resources that they require to get ahead, to stay ahead. The playing field has to be leveled by institutions, and it was brought up here. Black people need to be given certain institutions that make sure that there is never a disparity of wealth again. They not only have to be given their institutions, but they have to be given a level of independence to run these institutions without tampering. So, can we talk about Israel as an example? And people ask me before, is Israel an example to what Black people in America need? And my answer is 100% yes, right? Israel is your measuring stick to what a oppressed, marginalized, identifiable group of people need to protect themselves, to sustain themselves, to establish a true identity, and to be a nation. It is exactly the example. Now, to the white conservative who loves Israel, right? Because the Black conservative loves Israel too. Some of the Black conservative, some of us are Israel. Some of us are Jews, right? You need to have that conversation too. The question remains is that will the white conservative be on board and say, ladies and gentlemen, we have to establish that this black conservative community that believes like us, that worships like us, that prays to our God, that doesn't want to do harm, that doesn't want to tear apart this country, that this group deserves everything that we have afforded to that group over there. Because that group, to some extent, speaking of Israel, is the same as this group, if not in religion, if not in ethnicity, in oppression and marginalization. And therefore, if we have adopted a reparations mentality towards Israel, which Germany has, I would not say America is paying reparations to Israel. They support Israel. The Bible has said God will bless those who support Israel. But what are you doing when you're saying we'll only support a couple of tribes of Israel? We'll only support an Israel that looks like us. We'll only support an Israel that we have deemed to be Israel. But what about these ones? What about these people? Did you see the three black birds attacking the Israel flag? No, I did not see it. Interesting. So what we have to do, speaking to you, the white conservative, is we have to ask you a very strong question. Are you truly interested? Are you truly interested in doing two things? Fulfilling your promise to give life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness to all men. Is that truly your promise? Are you biased? You're not. Okay. Will you honor the fact that the black community in America has and was a an identity of being a slave colony? Will you recognize their oppression, their marginalization, and will you say that recompense is definitely something that they deserve? See, that last sentence is key, because the fact that the conversation of reparations, retribution, restoration, these conversations are things that the white conservative gets very quiet when these things come up, speaks to their inability to be fair at the table. Yeah. So when a Jew shows up looking like me, but is Jewish, and holding an American passport in his hand, what will you do for him? You're sending 4 billion, 3.6, but let's call it, let's round it up, $4 billion to Israel every year. Israel, you're sending $4 billion to Israel every year. You, taxpayer, all of you, every one of you, black, white, Asian, Latino, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We're Indian, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, like you name it. Whatever type of American you are sending $4 billion of your tax money to Israel. Whether you want to or not, Congress is sending $4 billion to them every year. And this is my question to you. You should, but will you also give it to the Jew who does not look like the Jew that you thought was the only Jew? That's all I'm asking you. I'm not telling you to take away the $4 billion you sent to Israel. I'm telling you, there's a nation here of indigenous, Hamitic, and Semitic black people whom you have not decided to either give independence or give specific aid based on ethnicity. You folks talk about identity politics. You cannot do politics without identity. You from the basics of party system to the macrocosm of ideological issues and ethnicity and race and orientation and all these things that make up the American political spectrum. You can't do it without personality. And so let's be devoid of that for a minute and talk to the white conservative and say, and I'm gonna be so fair with you, more fair than maybe some people would want. You built this nation, white conservative, but so did we. That's being very fair to you. That's being very fair to you. That's being so fair to you because we know who did most of that work, right? And the Chinese right behind saying, hey, don't forget us. Don't forget us. They blew us up building that railroad. Chinese right behind, right? The Jew might be right behind them. Say, hey, don't forget about us. Don't forget about us. The Latin American right behind, hey, don't forget about us. You got, listen, right now, if you removed, every single Latino unregistered, let's deal with the unregistered out of America, America wouldn't work. America wouldn't work. Then the Latino population are doing work, doing jobs that everyday Americans won't do. Blacks won't do it. Blacks ain't gonna do it. Black people are like the native Indians at the time of slavery. You couldn't enslave a native Indian. He wasn't a good slave. He was a bad slave. He'd die. He would run away. He would not. He wouldn't let you enslave him. He wouldn't be submitted to. He wouldn't do it. There's certain jobs now that black folks won't do, that you need the migrant Mexican to do, the migrant Latino to do. You need that person. So all these people now, we're not taking away anything from them. We're not saying that they're disqualified and they did not have part and have their fingerprints on America. What I'm talking about is the one group that was your property, chattel property. The one group that no matter what he does, he can't pass. Some of y'all light skins can't, but most of us can't pass as white. The one group that cannot look and say, I have a country, it's called such and such and such and such and such and such. And don't name Africa because Africa is a continent. And Africans from all over the continent were taken. Africa is a continent of nations, kindreds, peoples, and tongues. To say you're African is like an American, a person from the United States of America saying, I'm North American. And as very unspecific, that doesn't give us an idea of where you actually, what nation you reside in. If I just said you're North American, you could end up in the Yukon, or you could end up in the south of Texas, or New Mexico. You don't even know where you could end up. So the conversation is this, like I said, repeatedly, what is the white conservative prepared to do? What are you prepared to do? Because there requires to be the semblance of a funding of a new nation in America that speaks to the marginalization of Black people. And the white conservative cannot avoid that conversation for much longer. Can't. And the only Republican Blacks who will assist in avoiding that conversation are individuals who unfortunately have forgotten their history and have unfortunately feel that moving forward does not require us to look back, and collaboration with that some of us have, and it's great, and I think it's important. I think the collaboration of Black people with white people, with Jewish people, with Latino people, with Asians right now is extremely important. We should not be so divisive in our rhetoric that it stops us from being able to reach across the table. I'm not saying that. I am saying that our issues are specific, are unique, that they need to be addressed individually, and everybody else has the right to come to the table and say, this is what our community needs. All I am doing is coming to the table and saying, where is the new abolitionist? That's my conversation. They're going to give reparations when the dollar is nothing. Yeah, reparations of fiat currency is not enough. Reparations, you can't throw. Let me hit you. Let me hit you with this. What are they also doing with Israel? All right, this is something that was given to me by the great Christina King. Is that out of the $3.6 billion that are going to Israel, 85% of it is spent on military spending. So it's not just they're throwing fiat currency at Israel. They are building out resources, throwing paper with pictures of dead presidents on it. It's not enough. You need to give me infrastructure. You need to give me satellites. You need to give me tanks. You need to give me bombers, and you need to give me nuclear power, and you need to give me all of these things, like all of these things. And it's scary. I know. I just scared so many people. I just scared so many people because, and I'm trying to be nice, and I'm not trying to be insulting, but when white people in America hear that another foreign country wants a nuclear bomb, they get protection. And oh my gosh, why do they want nukes? We should only have those. The entire Cold War, if you guys are not familiar with it, is basically the time in between actual war. It was a time where spies and world governments wanted to make sure that all of the world powers had the exact same amount of weaponry. Because when one person or one group feels that they have more power than the other, they want to exercise that power and say, let's go take over. And so the Cold War was about, we can't give it to them and not give it to them. It's going to create problems. And so this is what I'm trying to say here, that nation building in the Black community is not only money. It's not only money, because you give me a whole bunch of money and then you just raise the price of everything. I'm in the same boat, right? Black people still have money today, but we have it at a disproportionate level. We have wealth at a disproportionate level because wealth comes with more things than money. The capacity to hold land, the capacity to have gold, the capacity to have treaties with other countries. These open doors are things that are needed today. And the white conservative, you have them in your hand like this. You have them, you're carrying in your hand. You're carrying the bag in your hand. You're carrying the bag in your hand. Will you come with us? This is my question. I see what you're saying. Like the children of Israel left, and they also took their goods, right? The Bible says they spoiled the Egyptians. That's what the Bible said, right? They spoiled the Egyptians. This is what I'm asking to the white conservative, the white right, the new abolitionists, who I believe you're out there. I believe that you're part of the solution. I believe that you're willing. I believe that you feel that you've been misdiagnosed. I believe that you feel that that Black people are not listening. I'm listening, and I'm going to say this too. Let's take a trip to Congress together. Let's hold hands and take a trip to Congress together and say, hey, listen to what these guys have to say. I back it. They're not dangerous to us. They're part of us. I heard a story the other day from a gentleman, and he talked about how he was drafted to go to Vietnam. And I did not know this part of the story, that they lined all of these Black boys up for their physical. And he said all of them were lined up naked. I did not know that. And he said they're of course segregated, but they had a line of Black people, and they would check their feet, their testicles, their eyes, their teeth. And then within a couple of weeks, they were in boot camp, and within 3 months, they were in Vietnam. 1967. Now imagine this. A nation of people who have never been given their fair share, but disproportionately sent off to war. He avoided it because he got a basketball scholarship. And so he was in university. And so if you were in university, you did not have to go to Vietnam. How many brothers were shipped off to Vietnam? How many Black men were shipped off to Vietnam? We're not even talking about how many died on the way here in slavery, how many died in slavery. But let's go back to a time that's not that long ago. How many Black men fought for this nation in Vietnam? And And is this nation truly reciprocal of how Black people help build this nation? Come with us to Congress. That's the conversation I want to have with you. Come with us to Congress. Let's have a conversation about getting to Congress and sitting down and saying, what should now the white conservative do? What should the white conservative do to make sure that Black people, what we have in America, is similar to what they have in Israel? That's all I'm saying. What is the white conservative who says they love Israel, they support Israel, are they prepared to now give us the same thing they've given to Israel? That's all I'm asking. All right? This is Del K. Brereton. This is The Real Spiel. Think about it. Share. Send it out to somebody. I'll be back at noon. At noon, we're going to be talking about some other stuff. But I hope that it makes you think. Look into it and tell me what you think. Talk to you soon.